Right. But for me, yeah, it's just a privilege to not just be here, but to listen to so many amazing speakers already, and it's interesting to see where all this has taken us. And with hope, inspiration, and transformation, and I love every single word. And when you talked about, we're doing it at a certain time of the week or of the month because of the calendar, and we get energy. I mean, I wake up every morning, and then there is energy because there's energy all around us all the time, and we just have to take from it what we want. And for me, it is so important. And I will talk a little bit more into this as well. But when we look at experience, the experiences we've got, and so far in our lives, we get them from events and from all kinds of things, especially when we're young, through curiosity. And I've always been a very curious kind of person, and many stories I could tell you, but that would take a lot more than 8 minutes. I mean, when Vicky asked, "Can you talk for 8 minutes?" I said, "My problem is to stop talking because I came out of the womb talking, and I haven't stopped since." But I've had many experiences, and I just want to share one when I was very young, 3-year old. That's several years ago, as you can imagine. And uh, I was always curious, and we lived above a shop, a music shop. Now, that was when we had records, these round vinyl things. The young ones might not remember them; they might now use them as frisbees. But we had a music shop, and I was always curious, and I used to wander into the shop quite often to find out what was happening. And one day, my dad had a little workshop in the back of the shop, and I wandered in there, and I was rummaging about, and I for whatever reason, and maybe no coincidence, for whatever reason, I picked up 2 nails, and I wandered back in the back of the shop, and I was always fascinated with electricity too, the way how you switch something on and all of a sudden the light goes on somewhere, and you have another switch and a Hoover goes on, or you've got another switch and the music starts playing. It was fascinating. So I I see this socket now. I came originally from the Netherlands, as you might hear from my accent, and I saw this socket low down in the back of the shop. So I planted myself firmly in front of it, and I had 2 nails in my hand. Now, our sockets in Holland have 2 round pins. I think you're getting the message. But as I said, I was curious. So I sit there, and I take one of these nails, and I put it smoothly into that hole, and it fits like a glove. Now, I don't need to tell you what I was going to do next. I think you get that as well. But I picked the other nail up, and I put that in the other hole, and nothing. Now, I was curious, but I had no idea what to expect. But I was a little bit disappointed that nothing happened, because I see all these things going on with lights, with hoovers, with music, and all that. So because nothing else was happening, I thought I'll take them both out, and I took them both out at the same time. Now, when I did that, all of a sudden, in South Africa, we call it load shedding, but everything went dark. I got thrown back about 2 meters. My lights went out as well. And by the time I came round again, I was kind of a little bit dazed, to say the least, but I got more than the shock from the electricity. I was curious, and people said, "Well, did you stop being curious?" I certainly never didn't stop being curious, but I can tell you one thing for sure: I certainly never did that again. But curiosity gets us things, and when we look at life itself, and the experience we've had, how they affected us, and what we've done with them. Now, when I look at my conscious and subconscious belief system, and how my brain has been molded and modeled so far, or not, as the case may be, that's open to debate. But everything that has happened has started with a thought, which I have allowed into my head, which we all allow into our heads, and we need to become aware of it, because we have a process of transformation that we work with, and one of the sentences that always comes up in every time we talk about a value is thoughts become actions, actions become habits, and habits become our destiny. Now, this is so important, because we're talking about energy, we talk about hope, we talk about inspiration, and we certainly talk about transformation. And how can that ever happen if you don't know what you're doing with your life? If you're still going through life and you're just existing? And quite too often we look at our lives, and we look at things that we should be doing, yet already we tell ourselves we can't, because we look at the results we've had so far in our lives, and we can't, never mind the inspiration, we certainly can't be inspired, because we have no hope of ever doing anything like that, because we have seen the results. And if you think about it, if you've heard of the stick man, then it is very simple. It's not easy, but very simple, because I already said everything starts with a thought, and thoughts become actions. So if everything starts with a thought, everything you see around you, the clothes, the chairs you sit on, the gadgets we speak into, so then thoughts come into your head. They go into your subconscious, and eventually they become habits, and you actually start doing things from there. So the results, if you really, it's as simple as that. The results you've got just now is because of the thoughts you've been thinking in the past. So that means that the thoughts you have just now should be able to get you different results, unless you never think. George Bernard Shaw said a long time ago about thinking: 2% of people think they think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. Too many of us mistake mental activity with thinking, so we don't really think about it. But if we use that idea that thoughts become ideas, and we actually get results from there, then surely if we want to change our results, we just need to change our thinking. And how often don't we do that? And how often do we complain about the situation we find ourselves in, and we don't ask questions of the person in the mirror and do something about the situation we're in? Now, for me, it would always have been easy to fall into that same trap that I cannot do anything. Yet our brains are, we don't even know yet what the limits of our brains are, and we are unlimited. Yet every day we talk and we walk as if there is a limit to anything we can do. Surely we should turn that around. And for me, it was easy to actually fall in that same trap because I was bullied as a kid. But I became, and I could have said, well, my life is bad like this, it'll never get any better. But of course it got better, and it's getting better every single day, because growth is a day thing, an everyday thing, not a once every so often thing. But I became hopeful, and I decided to change my path and become intentional in everything I was doing. And it was funny what somebody said, because the thought that came to me today is of the thought that the quote I'm going to give you next is that yes, there are two important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you discover why. That's why it's so important to discover your passion, your purpose, your why. Each and every one of us has a path to follow, a journey and a destiny. What is your destiny? You don't want to just go through life and exist. There is more to each and every one of us. Everyone, you matter. We all matter. And we will inspire ourselves when we live our lives with passion. That inspiration will come from within. If we know what we get up for every morning, there is no need to set an alarm clock, because when we live a life of significance, we know that by the time it is going to happen to us all that we pass away, but at least we can look back and say, yes, my life mattered, and your life matters right now. There's too many people, they go to work on a Monday and the only thing they look forward to is Friday, and it's a very sad thing to be in. It's a very sad situation, because the weeks is just to fill in the gaps between the weekends, and even in the weekends they're just complaining and doing things, mundane things, and they don't really live. Where is that hope, that passion you need more now than ever before? I talk about leadership as well, and Napoleon said many years ago, of course, leaders are sellers of hope. What are you selling? And that is very important, because if you really want to transform, there is a quote we use as well in the transformational process, where it says transformation always begins inside each and every one of us, the person that looks in the mirror every morning. But we need to start asking ourselves some very important questions. We quite often don't ask others any questions, yet we blame everybody else. But the only person that can assure that tomorrow will be better is the person that looks in the mirror. The only way we can assure that tomorrow will be better if we do something about ourselves that ensures that we do something to improve ourselves today. And and that is why it's very powerful, because it is so very important that we don't waste our lives. Where there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. But there is no power in the present for most of it, because we've got no hope. And for many of us, we need to sow more hope. We need to sell more hope. We need to give other people more hope, and we need to inspire others to look for their internal transformation, for the things that they need to do, the things they feel inside themselves, the things that are powerful. And I want to finish. I know my time is nearly up, so I want to finish with this little story about a wise old man at the bottom of the Himalayas. And there was this man, a wise old man. He lived in a village at the bottom of the Himalayas, and he was always right. He had so much wisdom inside him. And there was two young boys, and it really peeved them ever so little that they could, whatever they tried, they could never get him wrong. So one day, one of the boys comes to the other. He is so excited because he says, you know, today it's going to happen. The other boy said, today is going to happen what? He's going to be wrong today. I said, he's never been wrong before. But this boy had never given up hope, and that's how important it is, because when you have hope, you keep trying. And he did try, and he said, you know, I'm going to tell you today he's going to be wrong. And he was so excited. I said, well, tell me, what is your thought? He says, well, I'm going to ask him a question. And he says, the question is that I'm going to have a bird behind my back. And I'm going to ask him if the bird is alive or dead. And if he says the bird is alive, I'll go, sorry, bird lovers, that's only a story. He says, and I'll show him the dead bird. But if he says the bird is dead, I'll open my hands and the bird will fly away. And so surely, this is the day he'll be wrong. And they got excited. And, you know, when you've got hope that something is going to happen, you are inspired and you get a spring in your step. And they went to that village at the bottom of the Himalayas. And they knew today was going to be the day they were going to transform their lives. And that of the old wise man as well, because he's got to be wrong today. So they got into the village and they knocked on the door of the wise man and said, wise man. And he came to the door and says, yes, young man, what can I do for you today? He says, wise man. And they're looking at each other because surely it's going to happen today. And they're looking at each other and it says, wise man, I have got a question for you. And he says, sure, ask away. And they hardly can contain themselves and they don't even want to look at each other anymore. But the one says, wise man, I have a bird behind my back. What I would like you to tell me, is the bird alive or is it dead? And, you know, they're getting their excitement up. It's going to happen now. And the old man is thinking for a bit and he strokes his chin. And then he says, I know you have a bird behind your back. But whether it lives or whether it dies is in your hands. Thank you.